Hi, welcome to my journey. Well, I got my hat on today, and I'm thinking it makes my head look bigger than it is. I already got a big head, but it makes it look bigger, I think, right? But we're gonna wear it anyway, okay? Because unless it gets too hot, it's 58 degrees apparently right now. I could take off my hat because it's really not that cold, okay? Yeah, I think it's too hot for the hat. Let me put on another hat. Hold on. I'm kind of pissed off because my bag of leaves is still there on the lawn, and I think because this car's here, they didn't pick up this bag of leaves, which is, not to mention, the garbage man has also dropped off the garbage cans in the street. Okay, mine was way in the street, and I was like, "What the hell?" So I don't know. It seems like you know people just aren't satisfied, right? They got a machine that all they have to do is line up the lever, right, with these garbage pails, and it picks it up by itself, right? But we have now where they don't even want to. If trash falls out of the garbage cans, they're not going to pick up the trash. They're not going to put the garbage cans back on the curb. And it's just kind of ridiculous, the way people think. It's like, you're going to leave people's trash cans out there in the street. You don't care. You don't care, right? And people are going to be like, oh, well, if you don't care, they don't care if you lose your job. See, you see how that works? And you're going to be feeling like, that was an injustice to you. And they're going to feel like, nah, it's not an injustice that you lose your job because 20 people called and was disappointed on how you left their garbage cans. Anyway, I couldn't wear that hot hat, so I'll wear it when it's colder, because it's 58 degrees out here today. And they did this all down the street. They did this all down the street. Oh, wow. What's going on down here? was having hard times, sleeping. And I've already exercised, right? Did my lightweight exercises, did my mile walk, had breakfast, had a couple of cups of coffee, and, I've been laying around, listening to another book, thinking about, the SNAP program, where it's requiring people to, either do some voluntary work or some paid work. And I guess that's supposed to be like in lieu of training, right? So you could get maybe some type of training credit by saying, you volunteered, to do work at this place, and, you exercise this and that and other skills, right? Something like that. Because here's the thing that I was wondering, right? When you're older, right? When you're 62 years old. When you're 62 years old, and they don't want to employ you. Employers don't want to employ somebody, especially if that person is old enough to get hurt on the job, right? We don't even know how fragile, older people are. Like I said, even myself, right? The menopause, bone density, aches and pains, even the smallest jolt could, throw my skeleton off balance and cause me pain. Okay? And, really, no employer wants to be, dealing with that, having an employee that, might get hurt on the job because of their fragility, because they're fragile. I mean, they got some people who, purposefully will get hurt on the job. Just so they could get, 3/4 income and stay at home and get, regular massages at therapy. Anyway, that's why, even to try to say, oh, well, no way you can't find some place to go and volunteer at. And it's not true. That's not true. There are places, it's harder when you're over 60, right? Just because, like I said, there's a fragility in old age that sometimes it's not even known to the person, right? It's not even, they don't even realize that they have problems. What is this? My goodness. Oh. Road construction can definitely cause confusion. So anyway, I was looking at that because when I heard of them saying that they're offering training to SNAP recipients, I was like, oh, that's nice. But then I didn't see a link or anything like that in the notification that I got, and I was like, well, okay, what are you saying? You're saying that this requirement to do volunteer work is providing people with job training? Right? And it just made me wonder, and I'm like, I went and volunteered at the state fair, and no, I don't think that they would feel like, that was job training for me to be able to become, a worker down at, the state fair next year. Anyway, how do you like the lipstick and the lip liner? I think it looks good. I think it looks really good. I didn't want to wear my brand new wig today. I did, but I didn't, because I felt like maybe I should wait. Just wait. I just wait a couple of days. Like this guy right here, he has this stuff out here every weekend. Even though he doesn't advertise it as a yard sale, he's definitely advertising that he's willing to sell what's out there in his yard. Because Garland, they only allow you 2 yard sales. Most of the morning listening to an audiobook by Daniel Steele. Yeah, this one kind of made me cry, made me sad. This was called Rising Waters, or something like that. Yeah, I think it was Rising Waters. And sad. Right? Happy or sad, I cry. I guess those are just times that, I just feel open, with emotions. I didn't wait to hear the last of the story, because I decided to get out, for my hour, because I was feeling isolated. I was. So I figured, I can always go back and listen to the last of the book. I get out here 2 o'clock when it should be fairly warm. Temperature's going up a little bit. It's 59 degrees. The sun is coming out a little bit. So yeah. It was feeling kind of cool today. It was feeling kind of chilly in the house. One of the reasons why I grabbed the new hat, right? The furry hat. And then after I got out here, I was like, well, shit, it's too hot to wear that hat. Way too hot. So I don't know. It looks like the gasoline has went up a little bit. From the $2.14. It's up to $2.40. Wait a minute, $2.25. Okay. Yeah, they got the chemtrails in the sky. These fake clouds. These old smudge clouds, I don't like them. 60 degrees now. December 3rd, let's just say the actual date, December 3rd, I had went out and tried to do Uber, right? Remember, I ended up having to use 2 cards, right? And they never paid me back for the $9 used on my debit card. So yeah, I got gypped out of $9, right? Because of course, you know, they're like, it could take a while before, you know, they pay you back for your refund. Okay, so I kept waiting to see if they was gonna pay me back on the refund. Then it was like, oh yeah, it slipped my mind. Then it's like, oh wow, you know, they only gave me like a partial refund, and why would they do something like that, you know? And I had to sit back and really think about it. I was like, oh my gosh, you know, I think I'm gonna have to dispute this. And then it was like, ooh, can I dispute it? You know, I think I got a picture of the receipt where I could dispute it. Right? So I guess I'm gonna have to dispute it. Because I didn't get my $9.24 back. Which I feel like, this is, I feel like it's not fair, right? I don't think that it's fair, first of all, that, I ended up having to use my money. I don't think it was fair that, second of all, I couldn't find anybody to help me. Right? So now I'm trying to figure out, well, if I couldn't find somebody to help me, how do I go about, disputing the situation? I know when I first started, they kept, telling us, hey, whenever you go shopping, don't give the client the receipt, hold on to the receipt, right? Well, I held on to the receipt, right? Took a picture of the receipt, waited to see if I was going to get, some type of refund, and that's really discouraging. It's really discouraging that, they don't have some kind of audit system, to verify, that a company as big as Uber, does stuff the right way. That they got to do stuff the right way. That they can't sit up here and, rely or force people to correct their business practices. So now they have 9 of my dollars that they've been having since December 3rd. Right? Today is, what, the 20th? No, it's the 19th. So that's 15 days. And that just made me pissed off because I'm like, that should have never happened. It should have never happened. And even if it did happen, why did the system only give me back a partial refund? Now I got to do extra work, put in a dispute. Now I'm upset about the company, right? Because I didn't even want to make a transaction, but once I had got to the store and started buying the stuff, I couldn't cancel it. I even contacted the customer to see if they could cancel it. They said they couldn't cancel it, and I was like, okay, this is ridiculous, right? And that's when I pulled out my credit card, praying to God that I had at least the $10. What is that? And so, you know, I'm really reluctant to even have to go through this mess. And hoping, I am hoping that I didn't delete, you know, the photograph of the receipt, you know, because I'm having a hard time with, you know, my memory on my phones. That I'm constantly deleting, you know, pictures and videos, you know, on my phone, because every 2 days, you know, I'm beyond the memory of, you know, of having to buy storage, and I can't even buy no storage. Fuck that shit. I don't care if they give me storage at $2. I don't care if they gave me storage at $1. My dogs, you know, their flea and tick medicine, you know. So definitely, you know, things is really working out for some people. And definitely I feel a little bit better about, you know, the crime situation than I did, say, the last 4 years. Right, last 4 years. I have not felt good about the crime situation at all. Right? I think if I didn't feel better about the crime situation, I don't think I would even get out for my hour ride. Right? Because I promise you, I was starting to feel agoraphobic, you know, afraid, you know, to even get outside, you know, because of, you know, how I felt like, you know, our society has, you know, how bad it had became. You know, I thought it had gotten really, really, really bad. That I just didn't even want to get outside. Right? And I do live in a red state. Right? I do live in a red state. And even though, you know, I live in a red state and I'm a minority, I don't necessarily feel safe for the sake of feeling safe. But you know, it would be for the sake of, you know, their ego. right? Their ego would be like, you're not going to come into a red state and commit a crime and feel like you're going to get away with it, right? That's the one thing I do feel, that I don't feel, like if I have maybe lived in another state. It's just like, well, yeah, hell yeah, here in Texas, you can carry arms here. You can carry weapons here, concealed weapons. And then in other states, they may not have, legalized it, but those other states, they're carrying weapons illegally. Okay? Yeah, I think the best deodorant for me is the Secret deodorant for women, because when I try to use other deodorants, they don't seem to work very well. So yeah, we got a new moon going on here. Tomorrow is a new moon, and it's weird how they would say, how some people have said it's a new moon in Sagittarius. I'm gonna have to look it up to see how come they say it's a new moon in Sagittarius when we're getting ready to have Capricorn season. Yeah. And they've been doing that all this year. You know, to me, they've been saying it wrong. And that's because, you know, the new moon is on a border. It's on the border. But just because it's on the border, it doesn't stop it from being the new moon for the next sign, right? It just doesn't make sense to me to have a new moon at the very ending of a sign. That doesn't make any sense at all. How is it the new moon in Sagittarius and Sagittarius is ending? It's like people do some of this the weirdest stuff. Let's just call it weird. We're going to try to be just a little bit more gentle in how we talk to people. Just a little bit. Clouds that they done seeded up there. They done created and seeded. They done smudged all the way out. Damn near blocking the sun. They were saying that this was the day that 3i Atlas was going to be closest to the Earth. Now, they say that 3i Atlas is going to be very close to Jupiter. Yeah. In the nearby future. Very, 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 like, conjuncting. It's going to be conjuncting Jupiter for sure. Like, wow. They just said it was just going to be close to Earth today. Today's going to be the closest. But there's going to be a conjunction with Jupiter. So today, instead of having, my usual protein drink, I just have my coffee and, got some protein from the coffee because I use milk in my coffee. I did not add any protein to my coffee today. Early this morning, about 5 a.m., I finally ate those poached eggs that I wanted, and they were good. I was even tempted to have another serving of poached eggs. Still tempted, I might, but I'm actually thinking what I'll do is have a chicken sandwich, maybe a wrap. Use up one of those email out because when I was confused and I was looking for like food pantries, I did send an email to and they replied back. Hannah replied back and told me that, there is a place that, will distribute food on Saturdays. Right. But, I'm not going to be going this Saturday. Maybe next Saturday. They got a lot of road construction going on. The smallest little boats I've ever seen. Wow, we haven't heard that kind of noise pollution in a long time. So I'm gonna have to look up to see whatever happened with Somalia, right? Because they kept saying something happened when it came to Somalia. Now I know Somalia have been under sanctions for a long time, and somehow or another they had a lot of them here in the States, right? They have a particular look about them that you could just about identify them. This guy don't live in this neighborhood, because if he had, he would have known he shouldn't have been able to turn in this lane. That's just somebody who took advantage of the Uber EV rentals that they announced. And quiet as it's kept, a lot of our oil tycoons, they're pulling out. I've already told you, a lot of the oil franchises, they're being sold and bought out by private investors. I don't know what this red stuff is all over my plants, right? It's all over this area of my plants. don't know. We got some kind of infestation. It's not on the other areas of my plants, just right here. See, I'm used to this kind, the dark spots, not the red spots.